Hi Rahul, why can't I see you? Hello.
Hi, Lipsa, can you hear me?
Yes, and it's so good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I'm just getting my helper to I'm making her an admin so that she
Okay.
can actually admit people in case your general secretary gets busy. So I'll just
Hmm.
make her an admin. And,
Okay.
okay, uh, is your general secretary logged in? Not yet, right?
No, not yet. I'll ask him to. I am so glad this is happening. I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for ages, I think. मैंने कब से, like, I think we've had this conversation since last interview also.
All over internet, but so is your general secretary joining?
He will join in.
So he's joining, right?
Sorry, what?
Your general secretary is joining, right? He will be the one. Yeah, just keep it in case.
Yeah, he will join in. Just give me a minute. I'll just like reach him.
Sure, sure, sure. Let me just fix some things here. I need to sharp ratio, yeah, downstream. I could not sleep the whole night. In my dream, all these things were coming. I knew that's going to happen.
Oh, I used to steal those from my lab because they were so beautiful.
You can see what?
I used to steal those resistors from our labs because they were so beautiful. Like,
All right.
hello. Hi, Raghav. Lipsa here. Are you joining in now? Okay, because we'll make you the admin so you can admit people. Okay, chalo. Thank you. He's joining in a minute.
Sure.
So, how do I introduce you as? This is
वो
Rahul.
मैं आपको भेज देता हूँ which Jaipur. You had done something you guys have written, but I'll just send you so you can
Your
introduce to.
introduction. I
You
have
can.
your,
I'm sending you that. So
I have your introduction, Rahul, but that is like anyone can introduce you as that. No, I want to be able to pick up your personal
मैंने आपको
experience.
भेजा था आप इसमें से देख लीजिए. Let me just put some slides, some changes to the slides.
I do that. I'll just like get my.
Petrol engineering पढ़ाते हैं Bhubaneswar. When was Bhubaneswar started? Your year, right? So 2000.
No, I'm the second batch.
2010 is when it started, right?
2008 was the first year of starting. I'm the second batch. I joined in 2009.
Okay, understood. So do they teach petrol engineering?
We don't have petrol engineering. I think we have.
Chemical?
No, not yet. We started with the core ones, electrical, civil, and mechanical. I think now it has moved to materials and climate sciences also. So
Okay.
climate sciences is a big thing. But mostly I think BTech people will join. So they are like mostly electrical, civil, mechanical.
कितने बच्चे हैं यहाँ भुवनेश्वर में?
I think, अभी भुवनेश्वर में inside campus, I think it must be around 1,000 odd. And alumni strength is 3,000. But we had, I think, only 30 registrations, which I think is fine for starters. We have Raghav joining in if you want to make him the admin. Hi, Raghav.
Raghav को admin बना देते हैं. Raghav, who is Raghav?
Yeah,
He is
hello.
the General Secretary of Alumni Affairs.
Oh, he's
Hello.
secretary. Okay, I'll just get it to be an admin. Just give me a minute. I'll just
Yeah.
juggle.
Hi, Lipsa.
Hi, Raghav. Good morning. Thank you for joining
morning.
early so we can set up a few
Hello.
things. We also send a reminder on Facebook and mail as well that we're going to start at 10. Can
Yeah.
we do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my laptop is 10 years old and I have promised myself I will only get a new one after my book is released. So बीच में अगर गायब हो जाएगा तो I will have to, one of you will have to fire up the slides and I'll come from my phone.
Yeah, I have your slides. I'll just keep them downloaded now.
Yeah, I'm just saying as a backup.
The laptop is 10 years old is amazing, which means you're great in maintaining things.
I am the kind of person who says, जब तक खराब नहीं हो रहा तो why do you throw things? I mean, world is already full of so much of क्या बोलते हैं उसको wastage. Why add to it?
Yeah, agreed.
काम चल रहा है तो चलने दो. इसमें फोटो नहीं है क्या?
Yeah. I have your slides with me, so whenever.
तो वही slide में थोड़ी सी change कर रहा हूँ. I'm just trying to put this oil. I'm trying to translate MBA lingo into engineering lingo. एक mechanical engineering वाला बनाया है, एक electrical वाला बनाया और एक petrochemical.
Also, please don't mind. I'm going to have my breakfast also by the side. I didn't get time earlier.
हाँ, आप खा लो breakfast. That's fine. So the average salary is 12 to 14 more. That number is correct. No, I don't want to say a number which is up or down.
Yeah, Raghav, our average salary would be around 12 to 15 lakhs. No, that's what the last statistics were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's the video.
Raghav, what do you do? Which year are you in? Are you already an alumni?
No, I am in my final year now.
Final year.
I'm
What are
doing
you studying?
mechanical engineering.
Mechanical. Okay. So it has been like nearly 15 years when I did this equation. Is this correct? F is equal to F minus mu mg is equal to ma. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Who is playing that music? You just close the door. That's fine. You see, Lipsa, these are all modern portfolio theory का मैंने register बना दिया है. इसका मैंने mechanical engineering बना दिया है.
Good, this is amazing. Great customization for us.
Okay.
I will never let you forget, Rahul, that you've studied physics and photonics. So.
हाँ अभी मेरे को yeah, actually I forgot the other day when you mentioned them. ये सब तो किया है. It's totally something which
I remembered from our conversation in the alumni meet, right? I was like, oh my god, this guy has studied physics. That's amazing.
Yeah, I hope I will be able to cover this. But personally, जो है ना, I don't like these webinars because you don't get that feel, the one which you get when you are actually doing it. It's a very different feel.
True, I think, but I've also seen webinars bringing down boundaries for participants.
Which is
That's
true,
something.
but then okay, it may be just me. I'm such a live audience person because I like to have my sessions
Mm.
interactive. So in a webinar, there is one degree of inhibition. People may not necessarily be very comfortable doing it.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
what I feel.
So Rahul Raghav is also a design person. He's the one who designs all our posters. And this is what's
Oh,
done by
lovely,
him.
lovely, lovely. I actually there were three things I wanted to learn in university. I call them GPS. So G is guitar, P is Photoshop, and S is swimming. And none of that I learned. So okay, let me see your questions, Lipsa. I have really not had time to see your questions. So let me just see.
They are questions which you encounter day in and day out. So
Yeah, but
I'm also tempted to like ask you random questions.
ask me random questions. That's fine. I'll also give you random answers.
Yeah.
Any insights for women at work? What do you want to say for that?
I wanted to say what you think about it. I think what happens with, I mean, this is something that I specifically feel about girls from IIT. I think the number is just so low. There's hardly any support system to help them transition through like different to their career journeys, right? And
Right.
because they're so well networked, I want you, and I want it from your perspective, a non-woman perspective, as to some particular insights for women, like young women at work.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Also, Dheeraj.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. First of all, I'm confused. Should I call you Raghav or should I call you Dheeraj? What should I address you as?
I go by both of the names.
Okay, awesome. Wow. Like, so we should basically call you RD then. That's what Swamijit calls you. And
Yeah.
that's way cooler, right? So I might have to drop by 11 because I have another call and that's going to be the Q&A session. So I think between RD and Rahul, you'll be fine.
So you are going to drop out at 11.
Yeah. After we're done with your PPT and after we're done with the chat between you and me, I think the
Yeah.
audience chat session is when I'll drop out.
Are you sure we will be done by 11? 11. Okay.
Rahul, you're on a clock here.
I'll try to be quick.
Yeah.
It largely depends on how participative your students are. Less depend on me actually. So it's mostly okay. I'll try to finish the first session very quickly. Then the where I'm doing the formal PPT. Uh,
Hmm.
I'll try to be very quick through that.
Hmm. Got it. And do you mind if we record the session or if you record the session for us?
Already being recorded actually. So
Oh, awesome. Because we want to be then able to extract what RD has a plan is to then able to extract particular insights from it and stitch a smaller video and
sure.
then release it. That's his plan.
Sure.
RD may be able to put it on Facebook and mail as a reminder. Dal diya kya?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Okay, awesome.
By the way, you guys understand Hindi, just in case.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think the population would understand
How
Hindi.
many people are you expecting? If I could ask that.
35. I mean, we have around 35 responses for the form
You're
that
not
you have
audible. You're
floated.
not audible. Can you speak a bit loud?
35.
35.
35.
Okay. Am I audible? Because I'm slightly far from microphones. I'm just checking. Otherwise, I'll put on a headphone, which I don't like to do, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. You are audible.
You're audible, like there's some kind of a buzz sound with your voice. I don't know what it means.
That might be because of my internet. So
Rahul, have you made
but
RD
you
the
can.
admin for admitting people?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
I have
Okay,
I
made
can.
awesome.
that. So I've also got my helper to be the admin, so she will also be pressing.
Awesome. Hi, Soumyajit.
Hi, Ipsa. How are you?
I am good. So Rahul, Soumyajit is our outgoing vice president of the students
Shall I
union.
make him also the admin so that we have more than few people?
No, I mean it's okay. RD can do it.
Okay. I just don't want
So
to
he
overburden.
actually Soumyajit was the one who has been insisting that we need to have a session like this for our outgoing batch. Because he also belongs to the outgoing batch. That's when I reached out to you.
All right.
If you can kind of help us in this
Swamiji,
transitory session.
have you already got a job or Corona has eaten your job?
Yeah, I joined last week, 1.5 weeks back at Marvel Semiconductor, Bangalore, as a
Sorry,
design engineer.
designing. Okay, understood. Okay, so I'm gonna just go full screen just to see how it looks and if I don't lose anything. Yeah, okay.
It'll look good.
Yeah, looks good.
What about the evening session, Lipsa? Have you synced? I might be a bit late in that one, by the way. So I'll try to do 5:30. But
Yeah,
if
I think we haven't had time to sync. I'll do it sometime over the day with the folks.
yeah, just do that. Those.
I think we just need to divide who wants to talk about what piece. It can't be everyone want to talk about everything. I think अगर वो कर लेंगे, that's good enough.
That's probably what we need to do. And also, we had a meeting previously where there were people from other batches and all, like across the batches, around 15 people, 15, 20 people were there. So this director listens, doesn't answer. He's like right now in a phase of gathering what the issues are. We could try and probe him to give answers. Maybe Lipsa, you might need to do that because coming from a girl, it's viewed slightly less intrusive. But if I would do it, I would be viewed more incisive. So if you start that, just tell him that you ideally want it to be a dialogue so that he listens and gives his feedback as well. rather than
Cool.
him noting down the points, which I was not very happy about in the last session. But maybe from his point of view, he views that at this point in time he's just trying to solicit feedback rather than provide solutions, which is fine. But I would still imagine a little bit of dialogue is healthy.
Cool. I'll keep it in mind. I can start my video now. You can see.
Where are you, Lipsa, now? Which city?
I am home, Bhubaneswar.
Oh, okay.
So everyone who's going to join the call today, their favorite city is Bhubaneswar. Like even for Soumyajit and RD, I'm sure.
Okay, okay, that's lovely. And you studied in IIT Bhubaneswar because you are from Bhubaneswar, or just
No, I think that's just how ranking works. That's how it is.
okay.
Adi and Soumyajit, can you please back me up on my comment about Bhubaneswar?
Well, IIT Bhubaneswar is not really in Bhubaneswar, right? So still, it's a decent city, I will say.
IIT Bhubaneswar is not in Bhubaneswar. Where is it?
Like it takes around 1.5 hours to reach the city. So,
I think when I went to college, it was in Bhubaneswar. When these guys went to college, they had their own place, which was a little far off from Bhubaneswar.
Right. So you studied in a different campus, some existing university campus, probably, right?
No, we didn't have campus. I mean, yeah, we had like one building and two buildings. We hardly had a campus.
That building belonged to some other university, right?
It belonged to IIT Kharagpur.
IIT Kharagpur?
Has an extension campus in Odisha for their outreach activities, and we
All
just
right,
moved there.
I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. I also remember Bhubaneswar is the only capital city in India which is not a district.
Which is not a district. Yeah, it's too small to be a district.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you like the other people on the call? Are they also Odia?
No, there were hardly any Odia people in campus. My
Yeah,
batch had what, five, six people.
that's what I noticed that for some reason Bengal dominates, right? In colleges, there are hardly any Odia people in colleges, right?
That's a topic for a different day because I feel very passionate about it. We'll talk about it later. But I think in our college, it's north and south. There's a lot of people. There are a lot of people from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu.
No,
I think.
Andhra Pradesh definitely. So I'm not saying any. So what happens is historically, if you look, Patliputra and Utkal were the two main sources of power, right? Then when the British came and Calcutta became the port, that's when suddenly out of nowhere you saw Bengal come up, right? Otherwise, Bengal didn't exist for the largest part of the Indian history. It was called Angaraj or Angdesh, but it didn't really have much influence in the large history. It's only in the last, I think, 300 years that Bengali literature and everything picked up, which is kind of similar to the Russian literature and Russian pickup as well. But that's just how things. I don't know how much of that is true, but as far as I can remember, I don't see any mention of Bengal anywhere in scriptures, in history, or wherever. It's always been Utkal. It's always been partly. It's never been Bengal was never talked about.
Yeah. I was talking to an anthropologist. He's from the US and he's been studying India and South Asia for some time. He made a very interesting point, right? Apart from the Chinese civilization being the largest civilization of Asia, the second largest would be Bengal, Orissa, Assam, Tripura, and a lot of Southeast Asian states. So that's another second civilization in terms of culture, people,
Have
all
you
of
have you
that.
ever
So.
seen that? Have you ever seen that map which says this is 5% of the world and so is this? So that region of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, that is 5%, and there is a large landmass that is also 5%. Have you ever seen that map? I'll send you if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, send me.
Yeah, I'll send you right now. But we are right now into the call, right? So I better not.
Yes, we have people joining in.
Yeah, so we wait for 5 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, we wait for 5 minutes and then get started.
Okay. Then in that time, I'll just send you something.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining in. We'll wait for 5 minutes, have more people join in, and then get started.
I just sent you that image for your
I'll check it out.
sensory pleasures.
Let's get started, and we'll have people joining in as and when they come. Adi, should we get started?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll admit people as they come.
Yeah, please do. Thank you. So, thank you everyone for joining this session today. This is our first fireside chat that we are presenting from Alumni Association. And we have a very special guest, special to me, and a very special guest, Rahul Singh. We went to IMD together, and Rahul Singh is a banker, thinker, writer, speaker, mentor, talker, a lot of things in one person. And as you would have also seen from the bio that we had circulated, but I'll also give a brief of what he's up to right now. He's currently the assistant vice president at Deutsche Bank. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Singapore. And he's a banker by the day, writer by the night. He serves as the principal corporate advisory group for IIM Udaipur and is the academic council board member of Jaipuriya Institute of Management. He's also the initiator of a interesting portal called Gyanology, which has the objective of democratizing wisdom. His book, You Know the Glory, Not the Story, 25 Journeys Towards Ikigai, is scheduled to be released in the Q3 of 2020. He also is an engineer. He studied Bachelor of Engineering honors at NTU, on full scholarships and holds an MBA from Bangalore. And before we leave the floor for Rahul, I think I want to let all the participants know that this is a space for all of us. This is not going to be a speaker speaks and we listen session. We want this to be a real dialogue and a real chat. So please make use of the chat window for whatever questions are cropping into your mind, and we will pick it up at the end of the talk and see how we harness and harmonize that. And before we start the session, I would request everyone to please introduce themselves. Who are they? Where are they? And why are they joining this session? And when you're introducing, please switch on your video so we also see the human being behind the name that we see on the Zoom window. I will start with myself then. I am Lipsa. I'm a 2013 alum from IIT Bhubaneswar, and I also head our alumni affairs. I am right now in Orissa. I'm joining this chat because this was what Soumyajit had requested us to set something up for the outgoing students, a conversation around what is this transition going to look like from college to corporate, and how do you then plan your early career lives.
Hello everyone, I'm Shamjit Ghosh. I'm a recent graduate from IIT Bhubaneswar from Electronics and Communication Engineering domain. I have joined Marvel Semiconductors recently as a design engineer, and I'm joining this session to get a bit of insight about what to expect and how to plan out the early steps of our career ahead. So, thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Chirag Nigut. I'm a graduate from IIT Bhubaneswar, just from electronics background. So I will be joining MathWorks in the coming weeks as associate engineering development group engineer. So basically, I come to this session with a very open mind and want to know about what lies ahead and what are the steps that one has to take to improve his career and how this transition really works. So I want some insight, and therefore I've joined this session.
Adi, can you go next? I'm just going to be calling names in the order that it appears on my screen.
Okay, hello. Um, I'm Raghavendra Dheeraj. I'm currently in the pre-final year of my mechanical engineering at IIT Bhubaneswar, and I also currently head the alumni cell and international relations, and I have been assisting with that's it.
Thank you. I think the next is Nick. Nick, can you go next? I don't know if that's your full name. Okay, I think we're not getting a response from there. Sanjogta, can you go next? Okay, I think we'll just have a 2-second rule and then move on to the next person. Adarsh Kumar, can you please go next and introduce yourself?
Let's can we wait a couple of minutes so people can join back or something?
Okay, we want to wait because more people are joining now.
I mean, people have joined, actually left, maybe they're joining again or
Oh,
something.
okay. Okay, then we will just like move on and see who's available and have them talk. Ayush Sharma, Ayush, can you please go next?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Ayush Sharma. I'm a recent graduate in electrical engineering. For now, I'm in Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, and I'll be joining Tiger Analytics in 2 months. I've joined this chat because this topic is really interesting, and I really wanted to learn about how we can transition from academic life to industrial life. So I think I'll get something to learn from this topic, this chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayush. Swagat, can you go next?
Hello, I'm Sagat. I'm from electrical engineering. I have joined Gojek like on July 1st. So I was really interested in this topic because I aspire to do MBA someday, and that's it.
Thank you, Swagat. Bharat, can you go next? Okay, I don't think we have him here. Dinesh, can you please go next? Parth, can you please go next?
I think they are not able to hear us.
They're not able to hear me. Okay, I can't force people to introduce. I think we'll do conversations as we go on. So Rahul, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Litsa. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we loud and clear.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. You called me many a writer, speaker, banker, and I don't know how many are. I hope I have not erred in any of those are because, as I say, to err is human. So I think my life is about erring, which is basically making errors, right? So by being a banker, writer, speaker, and various other errs that you talked about, I am just probably making a lot of mistakes and learning from them. So that's how I would like to summarize the journey. But nonetheless, I might have some experiences from those mistakes and those errors, which I will talk about today. And I hope that will be useful for the participants from IIT Bhubaneswar. So let's just move on. Okay, so topic of my talk today is cash, because I know that you people are graduating soon or have graduated. And this is the question which is in the heart and in the mind of everyone who's graduating. I think this is the most pertinent question, the most anchoring question which bothers people when they graduate. So everybody in the room loves cash. Can I hear yes or no?
Yes, definitely.
Is there anybody who doesn't love cash? Okay, so I'm very wary of asking this question in India because I understand India is going through a revolution where you want to revolutionize the payment, you want to make it digital. But I still understand cash is king, right? People like to have cash, especially in current scenario. So the topic of my talk is cash, and cash is stands for C stands for career, S stands for salary, and X stands for happiness. And we talk about this topic because I think that we talk about cash, which stands for career, salary, and happiness. I will be able to address at least some questions that are in your mind that bother you, that make you get up in the middle of night, that make you uneasy. So let's start that. So the first question that probably
Rahul, I think your voice is cracking. Can
Okay.
we do something about it?
Yeah, let me just come closer. Is it better now?
Yeah, much better now.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I was saying that this idea of salary, this bothers graduates a lot. The number one question they have in their mind is how much money I'm going to get. Kitna paisa kamaunga, right? And people have various ideas about it. But if you ask somebody, how much money do you really want? If I were to give you a lottery ticket today, or if I were to give you a blank check, what money would you put into it? So can I have some answers? What money would you put into it? So if I give you a blank check, or if you were to win a lottery ticket today, what number would you write there?
People can also respond in chat. Like I'm gonna write my number.
I would prefer if people speak out, because it's difficult
Okay.
for me to look at chat and also look at the
Yeah, I think
presentation.
we can do both. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So if people could voice out, I would prefer that. So somebody has a number in mind, how much money they think they need if they were given a blank check. So somebody wrote, Lipsa wrote too many zeros, and it has been a while. I've not studied engineering, so I don't know what that is. Looks like 1 mega, so 10 to the power 6, right? So her number is 1 mega. I don't know if that's in dollars or rupee. So if it's in rupee, it's 10 lakh rupee only. So she's probably very content with very little, I would say, for an IIM and an IIT graduate. Anybody has any other number? What is the amount would you, okay, yeah. 1 crore. So Path has 1 crore number. Okay. Does anybody have an idea what does it take to get, what does it take for you to get into the top 1% of India? What salary per year, or what money per year you need to make to be in the top 1% of India? Does anybody have any idea about that? Any number that comes to your mind? How much money should you make in a year that you're in top 1% of India? 50 lakh, okay. Any other number?
I think at least
5 lakh for top 1%, okay. Any other number? So there is something called Newton-Raphson method, right? So one of you started with 50, the other started with 5. So that's a factor of 10 there. So through iteration, we will probably reach the right number. 15 million. 15 million is what does it mean in lakh? Is it 1.5 crore, right? That's what probably it would mean. Okay.
yes,
So
in
we've got
USD, in USD.
15 million USD a year. Okay, that's quite a big number, I would say. So we have been coming with all sorts of answers, and we'll have to come to some kind of consensus. So normally when I do this talk in IIMs, it's usually a 90-minute talk. But since you're IIT guys, you're much more brilliant, we will finish this in 30 minutes and no more than 30 minutes. So I'll just speed through this. Actually, it's much less than what you think. So it's slightly more than 5 lakh, but it's definitely not 50 lakh. It's definitely not $15 million. So it's a number which might surprise some of you. So the number actually is 8 lakh per annum. So if you are earning, and that's by the way household income. That's not an individual's income. Household typically has 2 people and two adults and 2 youngsters, right? 2 young people, two kids. So for a household, if you're earning 66,000 rupee a month, then you're already the top 1% of India, right? What that means is if you're getting 8 lakh per annum, then you're already in top 1%. And I understand that the average placement in Bhubaneswar, in IIT Bhubaneswar, is between 12 to 15 lakh. That already puts you in the top 1 lakh. And even if you look at the more conservative estimate over here, which says that actually it could be as high as 1.17 lakh, because a lot of people don't report their income properly in India. So even if you assume that number is then 14 lakhs per annum. So if you're earning 14 lakh per annum, then you're already in top 1%. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because a lot of you put this money factor into your equation when you're deciding your career. You somehow, I don't know what happens, but you're attuned to going for the job that pays you highest salary. That is the number one motivation. That seems to be the number one motivation, not only in IITs, but also in IIMs. I was guilty of that. Maybe Lipsa was not, because she was more evolved than most of us, but at least large majority of 99% of the students who graduate from these top colleges in India, IIT and IIMs, their number one motivation for picking up a job is salary, salary, and salary. And probably that is not the right motivation. Or maybe it is, I don't know. We'll go through the slides and figure out if it is the right motivation. So I am telling you that no matter what job you take, you're already in the top 1%. So why be so insecure? You will already be in the top 1% that will probably buy you all the luxuries, everything that you wanted in your life. Maybe not on day one. Maybe not on day one you will drive a Mercedes, but eventually within a few years you will be there. So what I'm trying to say is, do not have salary as a number one consideration when you're deciding your careers. The topic of today's talk is transitioning from college to corporate. And number one thing that changes when you're going from college to corporate is, at college you're paying money to be doing something of meaning throughout the day, whereas when you go to work, somebody else is paying you. And that is the number one shift. A lot of people are not able to cope with it. A lot of people don't know how to use that money. So that is why I'm talking about salary today. Okay, now let me tell you another thing. There is also a misconception about middle class in India. Actually, when we say middle class, we are not in the middle. The middle class in India actually is the top 1% or top 10% of India. So people who like to call themselves middle class are actually the elitist in India. And most of you who have gone to the IIT system are not middle class, but you would like to call yourself middle class, which is such a misnomer. You're not middle class. You are actually the top 1% of India. And that's the message I want to drive here. And I've said that over and over again. But nonetheless, since this is IIT gathering, we'll talk about this number. So as I've said here, if you are able to see me online right now, that means you have an internet connection. That means you're already not the middle class. That is a reality. That is a reality which we like to ignore for reasons which are many, which are too many for me to list over here. But the idea I'm trying to drive you is that by the virtue of the fact that you are in this congregation, by the virtue of the fact that you're listening to me, by the virtue of the fact that you went to IIT, you are in the top 1%, not just intellectually. Intellectually, you know that you're in top 1% having gone through the JE system or having gone through the toughest examination that is there out in the world, one of the toughest, if not the toughest. So you know intellectually you are there, but I'm telling you financially also you are there. So stop worrying about money. That's my number one message to you. So if you stop worrying about money, what should you worry about? So we'll go into that slightly later. But before that, I want to ask you a question. Is rich or broke money, or is it something else? Who's going to answer that?
Yeah, I think it's more of your expectations, how are you prepared to take risks, handle yourself in a financial condition. That's about all, I think.
Okay. Anybody else has a different opinion on that?
I think it's more of a mindset thing, the rich or broke mindset, the way we think.
Okay, that's great. It's actually mindset. Rich or broke is not money. It's your mindset. It's your state of mind. Because you see, you could start very rich. You could start as Anil Ambani, and if your mindset is not right, you will be able to squander that money in no time. Right. So rich and poor is a mindset. What you do with the resources that you have, rather than how much money you have in your bank account right now. That is just instantaneous. You're just beginning your journey, right? So that's not the end point. At this point in life, rich or broke is not how much money you have in your bank balance. Rich or broke right now is your mindset. That is the most important asset that you have right now. So that's the other message I want to drive, right? Now let's talk about salary, right? We can't come to IIT and not talk about salary. This is what gets you put in your placement. This is what your uncles and aunties and parents want to listen, right? Mere becho ko itte lakh ka package mila, right? That becomes the headline. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about how you can maximize your salary. How can you, if the only thing that you're trying to do out of your IIT is to get the highest paid job, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. What makes me qualified enough to do that? I actually had the highest paid internship from IIM Bangalore. I unfortunately did not graduate with a job from IIM Bangalore because I came to IIM from Singapore and I went back to Singapore. IITs and IIMs guarantee you a job, but not the job, right? I wanted the job in a specific sector, in a specific job function, in a specific location. That was not available at IIM, so I left IIM without a job. It took me 4 months to find a job in Singapore, which probably might not have been in the my job from my batch, but definitely still in the top 5. So I think that makes number one thing that you need to do to maximize your first salary. Remember, everything we are doing here is to maximize your first salary, your day one salary. I don't know what you call it at IIT. Do you call it day zero or whatever? So your day zero salary, that's what we're trying to maximize right now here. So you guys may not have heard of this. This is called modern portfolio theory. Anybody has heard of this? Anybody has done this math? Anybody has taken CFA level 1 or whatever? Anybody has done that? I need a quick yes or no because we are very short on time.
No.
No, okay. So you have not done this. I'll explain this to you very quickly. So modern portfolio theory says that there are various asset classes. So there could be things like cash, there could be things like bonds, there could be equities, there could be FX, and so on and so forth. Cryptocurrency, which came when I graduated, it was not there in my time. So what it says is that majority of your return, you could, let's say you're given a pot of money. So when you're putting this pot of money into various assets, into bonds, into equities, into FX, into so many other things, majority of your return will come actually from which asset you put your money in, rather than individual companies in those assets. What does it mean is, let's say you have $100, right? If you take that $100, $50 of that, if you put in equity, and let's say 25 in fixed income and 25 in FX, then majority of your return is decided how you're splitting this across asset classes. Very little of that is actually coming from which of the equities you pick. So it doesn't matter whether you pick a Coke or a Pepsi, that's less of an importance, but it's more important whether you're putting that money in equity or in bond. That is determining your return to a much greater degree. Other way of saying this is, do not put all your eggs in one basket. So if you're putting everything in, let's say, equities, right, which can tank, especially in this COVID-19 time, they can all go down, right? So the idea is about diversification. Now, that's a very MBA way of just saying the same thing. Now, I have also tried to translate that into engineering, right? So I understand some of you are electrical engineers. I like to call it Triple E, which is electrical and electronics engineering. I myself am a Triple E graduate. Largely, I studied in the Triple E school. My degree is in photonics, which is in electronics, you're manipulating electrons. In photonics, you're manipulating photons. So my undergrad is in photonics. So what am I saying here? So let's talk about resistors, right? So, you know, there are various substances. There is periodic table, which has got 108 or 110 elements. I don't know what is the latest because it always keeps adding. All of them are segregated into different categories. Some are good conductors, some are bad conductors, some are medium conductors, some are semiconductors, and then there are superconductors, right? So let's say if I were to mix various materials, right? Then I take one from semiconductor, I take one from one material from let's say conductor and one from non-conductor, and I mix it up. I mix it up very nicely. Then the average conductivity of that whole set will be an average of this. That's all modern portfolio says. What will not matter, or what will matter to a lesser extent, is how within each of these different kind of conductors, whether in semiconductor you're picking up silicon or carbon, or in conductor whether you're picking copper or gold, that is determining your overall conductivity to a lesser degree. What is determining it to a greater degree is whether you are having a greater proportion of metals or a fewer proportion of metals. Within those metals, how much of gold you have, how much of silver you have, how much of copper you have will matter. It will cause a delta, but not that much of a delta. Okay, I'm just trying to make it simple for you. Now the question is, why is Rahul Singh telling you all this? You thought that Rahul Singh is going to talk about salary. Now I'm going to now superimpose that concept about overall resistance into salary. So what happens is, when you're looking at salary, think of yourself as a money bag, or think of yourself as an element, or no, rather think of yourself as a money bag, and you need to be allocated. So you could allocate yourself to consulting, you could allocate yourself to electrical engineering, you could allocate yourself to IT, you could allocate yourself to petroleum engineering, and many other engineering that are out there, and many other job functions that are out there. So every job that you do, every job function that you're doing, every job function, which is electrical engineering or petroleum engineering or management or consulting, I'm calling, okay, I'm just coming closer. I think you can't hear me. So I'm calling all these different kind of asset classes or things or categories with different kind of resistivity. So some are semiconductors, some are superconductors, some are conductors, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when you're picking these conductors, superconductors, or non-conductors, majority of your salary comes from which one you pick. Okay, so if the current is flowing, the current is your salary, the current is flowing, majority of it is coming from whether you're picking a metal or a non-metal. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you pick up, let's say, electrical engineering versus if you pick up mechanical engineering, these will pay different salary. You know that in IITs, these will pay different salaries, right? So you might be the best electrical engineer, or let's take some example of Lipsa. Lipsa is the teacher. She might be the best teacher, but she will only be paid the average salary which teachers get. She is not going to be paid the average salary that you get as an engineer, as an electrical engineer, is going to be very different from the average salary that you get when you are a teacher, right? So she might be the best teacher, but at least on day one, on day zero, her salary will be determined by what the average of that industry is. That's my number one message to you. So if you want to maximize your salary, pick up an industry that pays the most. No brainer, right? I just put so many theories around, but essentially what I'm saying is that if you want your salaries to be high, pick up an industry that pays the most. Now, this is in IITs as well as IIMs. So maybe pick up finance, or maybe whatever is the flavor right now, whatever pays you the highest salary. I don't know what that is, but just pick that industry. Now, within that is industry, it will not matter as much whether, let's say, you are picking up electrical engineering, right? It will not matter as much whether you go to Sony or you go to Philips. There will be slight differences, but that will not be a massive difference. That's what I'm trying to tell you. As opposed to, let's say, the same you goes to a school to teach versus you going to LG, then the salary will be very different. But within the same industry block, it will be largely similar. Now, this is from the company's point of view, when you're picking up companies. Now, the company is also picking you, right? You are picking a company, the company is also picking you. Now, most of you might believe that actually, this is what happens in IITs, right, at placements, that you don't pick a job picks you. That's a reality, right? You largely have very little control over what you can pick. It's essentially a job picking you rather than you picking a job. But from a company's point of view, let's say I am LG. If I am hiring 2 people, and I will assume that all of you have equal skill sets, slight differences here and there, but by and large the same kind of training you have had in IIT. So if I am, let's say, picking Somajit or I am picking Jevesh, and I have a certain job profile in mind, I am largely going to pay them the same salary. It doesn't matter how it is versus Jevesh or the vice versa, because I'm ballparking you in the salary. Versus if I am putting you in some other job function, in teaching or in management consulting, then the salary will be different. So I'm trying to tell you that it's about allocating yourself, and you are allocating yourself to a job function, to industry. The industry is also allocating you as human resource into various industries. So it's both way process. That's the number one concept about maximizing your salary. Pick up an industry that pays you highest. Now let's move on. Okay. Now let's fine tune this. Default probability or fail probability. Those of you who have done structural engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, all of that has a fail probability. So this is an illusion which I'm going to talk to you about. So you see this ship is sinking, but people over here are thinking, oh, we are so much up in the sky, we are not sinking. Now this can happen to you in terms of salary as well. How can that happen? So what happens is that an industry that is sinking, that is going to go default, that is going to fail, might actually pay you more, Why? It sounds counterintuitive. How can an industry that is sinking pay you more? Think of an industry which is sinking, like travel industry, like making you the general manager of Kodak India, which publishes those reels which are no longer used. These kind of industries will ironically pay you more. Why? Because unless they pay you more, you will not join them. Only when they pay you more, you will join them. In finance, we call this junk bond theory. So junk bond is a bond which is going to default, which may not pay you back your principal. So in order for me to buy you that, in order for me to entice you to buy that bond, I need to raise the coupon. And the coupon that you pay in life is called salary. That's from the MBA point of view. Now, let me explain the same concept from the engineering point of view. Those of you who are mechanical engineer and those of you who are not mechanical engineer probably also have done this in your physics. So this is a force. I'm applying this force This force is going to cause acceleration on this mass, but there is something else going to happen. There is going to be a friction here. So I'm going to apply the force. Force minus the friction is going to give me the acceleration, right? So this is the equation. So let's translate that. What does that mean in terms of salary? The force that you're applying is called salary, okay? And the friction that is being applied is actually the resistance, is actually something that is inhibiting you. I'll explain that slightly later in a different context as well. And there is happiness. So what is happening over there is that you all have inertia. You all have a natural inertia. You may have different inhibitions, different resistance to different kind of jobs. So if you are if there, let's say there is a job that probably is sinking. That's what I'm trying to say. If a job is sinking, then just assume that the friction there is higher, versus a job that is not sinking. Then it's smooth. It's smooth because your life trajectory, your salary is kind of smooth there. You kind of know what salary you are going to get next. But if you're going to an industry that's sinking, you don't know when that friction will actually wear you out. So what I'm trying to say here is that the force that is being applied, the salary that is being paid to you, is being paid to you against. That's why there is a minus here, against the friction, against the resistance that job offers, okay? Against the fail probability, against the default probability of that job. And then that leads you, the difference of these two leads to an acceleration. That acceleration I'm calling happiness or satisfaction. Now, if you look at the acceleration equation, F divided by m is minus mu g. So you would think that just by increase, if the mass, if there is a greater mass in that thing, by mass I mean the inertia, that is something that is inhibiting you from taking that job. If there is a greater mass, then you have to increase the force. So if there is a greater mass, then I need to also increase the salary for you to be willing to produce the same acceleration. Acceleration, remember, over here is the satisfaction. For you to have the same satisfaction from a job that is going to default, I need to pay you higher salary. That's what I'm trying to say here. Now let me translate. So two things here we have discussed so far. Number one, if you want to get the highest paid job, then pick up an industry that pays the highest. No brainer. Within that industry, pick up a job, pick up a company that is actually going to fail. Because if that company is going to fail, then on day zero, because everybody knows they're going to fail, because the friction there is so high, in other words, they are actually going to pay you more. You might find this ironical, but this is actually what happens. People who are going to fail will pay you higher salary so that somebody of your talent actually takes that job. Remember, everything we are doing over here is for day zero job, okay? Let me move on. Sharp ratio. Sharp ratio says that for every incremental risk, for every extra risk, I'm going to compensate you more. For example, if you look at airlines, if you look at an aeroplane, somebody who is a pilot and somebody who is an air hostess, they're both flying the same plane, but they're not taking the same risk. One mistake from the pilot can actually sink the plane, and with that sink not only his life, but 300 people at the back of the plane, right? Including that air hostess, including that flight attendant, right? So if you take more risk in any job, if you take more risk, a pilot takes more risk. You are entrusted with more responsibility. If you take a job that is giving you more responsibilities, that has greater element of risk, because the other way to say risk is responsibility. If you take more risk, that means more responsibility has been entrusted on you. So if you take more responsibility, then your pay is going to be higher. Let me give you an example. Let's say if you are, let me give you a petroleum engineering example or petrochemical engineering example. There is something called upstream, downstream, and midstream. So if you're upstream is when you're right on this oil rig, which can catch fire anytime. Then upstream people always get paid more than downstream people. Downstream is the petrol pump. So if you're managing a petrol pump, or if you're looking as an engineer, if you're managing the consistency of the petrol that is coming there, you will never be paid as much as the petroleum engineering guy. That's why globally, petroleum engineering actually pays the highest, and it's somewhere up there with computer engineering, depending on the country. At least in the US, petroleum engineering pays more than electrical engineering, more than computer engineering. Maybe in India it's slightly different, because petroleum engineering is slightly nascent, slightly reduced in India, because we don't have as much petrochemical engineering in India as other countries, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that, let me just summarize. So what I'm saying is, if you want to maximize your day zero salary, pick up industry that pays you more. Within that industry, find a company that is going to sink, and within that sinking company, find a job function that requires greater risk. If you do all this, you'll maximize your salary. Now the question is, should you be doing that? And normally I'm very interactive on this, but I will just say you should not be doing that. Reason why you should not be doing that is because your purpose in life is not to maximize your salary. Your purpose in your life is to maximize your happiness. That is the purpose of. The purpose of life is not to maximize salary. Even if you maximize salary, there will be a point when you will break down, and you don't want to be in that breakdown. It might sound whatever I'm saying may not sound like obvious right now, may not be something that you can relate to it. But trust me, 5 years down the line, you will realize that salary is not the number one deciding factor in your happiness. Yes, you need a basic level of salary, but just that basic level. That's all that is there. Okay, CV versus eulogy. What that means is that very often we are busy looking in front. We are trying to add lines after lines after lines in our resume. We are looking forward. But sometimes in life, it's important to look into that rear view mirror to see where you're headed. So what does that mean? And I'm going to rush through all these slides now. So there was a nurse in England who did this study. She actually talked to people who were on the deathbed. These were people who were going to die in few days. So she asked them about the number one regrets of their life. Now these people said that, I wish I had the courage to live the life true to myself. They said, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. They said, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had let myself be happier. None of them talked about salary. You see, the number one regret of somebody who is dying is not salary, right? So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say here that do not look at salary. Salary is not important, especially for you, for your level when you're already in the top 1%. What is important is happiness. Don't have these 5 regrets, right? And why am I talking about rear view mirror example? Imagine if today were your last day, and it can happen, right? It can happen. A tsunami can come, an earthquake can come, a fire can catch wherever you are. If today were your last day, and there is this dialogue in this movie, right? I forgot the name of the movie. I think it's Jindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where it says, where this lady, her name is, I think Katrina Kaif, she talks to this guy, Hrithik Roshan, and she is asking her, Hrithik says, okay, ऐसा करूंगा और 40 पे retire हो जाऊंगा. Then she says, तुम्हें कैसे पता कि तुम 40 तक जियोगे? That's my question to you. If you were to drop dead today, will you call your life a success? Will you be happy with your life? If not, then change it right now. Change right now. Look at your life backwards. What do you want to be remembered for? And I'll give you an example here. There was a guy, Alfred Nobel, who invented dynamite. And one day his brother died, but people thought that it is Alfred Nobel who died. And what did a newspaper write about that? A newspaper wrote in his eulogy or obituary, which is basically what you write about people when they are dead. It wrote, the merchant of death is dead. How many of you would like to be remembered that way? I think none of you, right? So what that guy did is, within his own lifetime, he wanted to be remembered for something else. So what did he do? He set up a prize, which we now call Nobel Prize, to actually be given for something which people have done for the betterment of the humanity and not for the destruction of humanity by inventing dynamites. That guy managed to change what he's remembered for within his own lifetime, right? Because he could see his death, because he could see what people are talking about at the moment of his death or when they believe that he died. I'm saying the same thing to you. Do not wait when you're 50 or 60. If you want to be a singer, if you want to be a dancer, if you want to be a writer, you may be wanting to be whatever, do it right now. The only time that you can do is right now. You do not know how long you live, right? Like my father used to tell me that you can be whatever you want, but be an engineer first. That's a very wrong advice to give. Be an engineer first when I'm 50? Do I have time to be a writer when I'm 50? That's not the time to change myself, right? That's too late already, okay? So that's the second point I want to talk about. The first point I talked about is salary, why you should not be maximizing it. Second point I talked about is look at your life in terms of what you want to be remembered from. Look at it more backward. This is called reverse engineering, right? Figure out where you want to be and reverse engineer. Not look in front, not knowing where you are going. That's not the right way to look at it. Okay, last point is happiness. So happiness is equal to adrenaline minus desire. Usually I will ask people to interpret this equation because it's in mathematics, and I think mathematics is the most precise language known to mankind. If I show this equation to somebody in France versus Ethiopia, they will come with the same interpretation versus if I wrote a sentence. But I will explain what this means. And there is a YouTube link there, which I don't have time to play, but you can play at your own leisure. So what it means is that your happiness depends on whatever you desire, basically whatever you attain versus whatever you desired. So I will give you an example. If you desired, let's say, a 15 lakh package from IIT Bhubaneswar, and if you got 12 lakh only, 12 minus 15 is -3. That -3 will cause you to be unhappy. Okay. Similarly, if you desired 15 lakh, but you got 20 lakh, that 20 minus 15, which is equal to 5 plus 5, is going to make you happy. So that's all this equation is saying. This is a simple version of the equation, which is instantaneous. I have not integrated this over lifetime. I do that in a more advanced session, but I'll just leave it at that. So this is an instantaneous equation. Now the problem in that equation is desire. What happens is you fix your desire. You come to IIT, you come with a fixed mindset, and this fixed mindset is the most dangerous thing. You come with a fixed mindset कि 15 लाख का पैकेज मिल जाएगा, 2 साल में गर्लफ्रेंड हो जाएगी, मर्सिडीज हो जाएगी, फिर ये हो जाएगा, फिर वो हो जाएगा, फिर वो हो जाएगा. Problem is life doesn't work like that. You can't fix your desires and then work backwards, because you can't control what happens. Can you control your GPA? Can you control that? Could you control your class 12 percentage? Maybe you wrote a very nice essay in English. Maybe you're very well prepared for an exam, but then that day you had diarrhea. You felt sick. Can you control all that? N number of things go into controlling what the result comes out. So stop worrying about the result. The only thing you can actually focus on is your effort. That's why I tell people that you should be effort driven and not result driven. I've seen so many resumes where people say I'm result driven. I don't even know what that means, because the result is not something you can control. The only thing you can control is your effort. How much effort you can put into something. Just be sincere about your effort. And then whatever result comes out of it, comes out of it. Don't worry about it. Have a purpose, work towards that purpose, and work towards that purpose with 100% sincerity. Because you could get a result in fluke. You could get that 20 lakh job just because you were lucky that day. But that 20 lakh or that GPA of 9 will not make you happy if you know that although you had a GPA of 9, but within you, you did not have the knowledge. Somehow you just cracked the exam, but you don't have the knowledge. So be effort driven, be an honest person, be honest to yourself before you are honest to others. That's the point. And with that, I'll just end. And whose car are you driving? The same thing, that drive your car. This is your life. This is, now you're transitioning. You're going from college to corporate. Until now, your teachers, your parents, your well-wishers, your neighbors, your uncles, your aunties, maybe your girlfriends, maybe your boyfriends were telling you what to do. They said, okay, go to an IIT, finish your class 12 with 90%, get a good job, and life is set. This is now your life. This is #1 challenge to you. This is the #1 risk and #1 opportunity to you. From now on, nobody can tell you what to do. It's your life now. You have to drive this car. This is your car. This is your life. You have to drive it with your passion, right? The fuel that you're putting there in your life is your passion. If you are driving this car, if it's somebody else's car, very soon you will run out of fuel, right? Okay, so that's the point. Drive your car, your own car. Don't drive somebody else's car. A lot of people in the world are driving somebody else's car. A lot of people in the world are not working towards their own passion. They're actually helping someone else drive their car and making them rich. A lot of us do that, right? Drive your own car, be passionate about what you do. That's my question, that's my thing. Again, I say this, schools and colleges make you literate, they don't make you educated. Education is what you make out of your life. So right now, IITs and every other education you have had has just made you literate. Literate for you to make sense of your life, and that sense is actually education. Okay, Ikigai, this is something I'll talk about slightly later. And I think I'll leave you with this thought. Try not to be a man of success, but rather try to be a man of value. Right? This is the thought I want to leave you with. And this is something in 3 Idiots also they say, right? Kabil bano, kamyab mat bano. Kabil banne ki koshish karo. Kabil bano. That's my message to you. And Lipsa is smiling. I think I've well short my time. I've tried to keep it under 20 minutes, but I'm sorry. But let's just wrap it up at that. So I'm happy to take questions from you, Lipsa, now.
Thank you, Rahul. That was an amazing session. I think the way you put us into conflict about wanting cash and then maximizing salary and then telling that's not what we need to do. I think that turnaround was really, really beautiful. And the kind of abstraction of physics that you have done to kind of drive home the point, that's something that I am personally taking for myself. So here's a question that I have, Rahul, that I understand while we need to be driving our own car, while we need to be following our passion and figuring out things that way, all of us are graduating with a burden of a brand, right? That we are IITians, so whatever that means. There's a societal expectation, there's a peer expectation of it. What would your advice be in navigating that burden and, kind of unburdening ourselves?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that's why I talk about this car, right? So most of you, in fact, 99% of you, unlike if you're 1% Lipsa, you would be driving somebody else's car. What does it mean by somebody else's car? It's what the society wants you to be. It's what other people expect you to do because you have this baggage of brand on you. It is very rarely what you want to do. In fact, you don't even know what you want to do. That's the number one problem. And when I do this as a workshop, then I go through that, the why, the what, and the how of life. We don't have time for this. But essentially, what I'm trying to say here is that this baggage of brand should be rather liberating to you rather than captivating. You already have this safety net. Think of it like a safety net and not like a burden on your shoulder. Think of something that, if you're a trapeze artist, it's something that will prevent you from falling your face down and breaking your jaw. That's a safety net. You already have a degree from IIT. How much low can you go? You can't go below 12 lakh. That's your basic minimum. That's already done, right? So stop thinking, stop being so harsh on yourself. Stop trying to prove to everybody else. Stop trying to prove to others that this is my GPA, this is how much salary I get, this is my bank balance. Prove to yourself. That is what I would say. So the brand that you're talking about here, Lipsa, should be liberating and not captivating. I hope that answers you.
That does. We'll remember that brand should be liberating and not captivating. My next question is on how beautifully you have networked into your ecosystem, and that's something you strongly believe in, that having human connections and then pursuing potential through that. So can you give us some practical advice on how do we find mentors early in our career life? How do we rise out of our individual self, our sense of competition, to look out for help and also seek mentors around?
Yeah, so there is always more pleasure in giving than grabbing. Okay, so when you say how shall we look for mentors, it's a two-way process. By the virtue of the fact that these people in this congregation today are IIT students, there is two things here. You should always look at your life. I call this whole versus whole mindset. So HOLE versus WHOLE. So do you look at your life as a whole? That there is a big hole in my life, एक गड्ढा है जिसको मुझे भरना है by sucking everything around? Or do you look at yourself like whole, WHOL, that I am whole, I have something to give, to offer to others. So before you are seeking out mentors, you should also be giving, right? You can mentor to your schools, people who have helped you get until where you have been today. So start with giving before you start grabbing. Start giving. This is no brainer, right? Only when you start. अगर हाथ खाली करोगे तभी ना तो कुछ grab करोगे ना. If the whole time you're trying to only grab, तो कहाँ से कितना grab करोगे? Right? Mindset नहीं change होगा. It's about a shift in perspective. So wherever you are, in whichever form you are, think about whether you are a whole, HOLE वाला whole या WHOLE वाला whole. तो कुछ तो होल किया होगा ना लाइफ में, कुछ तो आता होगा ज्यादा ना, more than other people. Something to contribute कर सकते हो ना. Think of somebody who is struggling to get into IIT. Think of somebody who is confused about which engineering branch to take. In fact, after this session, I am doing a session with my school where I'm doing exactly this, and it has been like 15 years or more since I've graduated, but I still go back and give them because I think that's the right thing to do. So now to answer your question more directly about network. So networking doesn't mean what I can suck from these people, right? That is not the idea. What I can squeeze from this guy, that is not how it works. When you're networking with person, always put yourself in the shoes of the other person. What is it that you can do for that guy, right? Only if you have an answer to that, and you always will be able to give something. That's why I say you need to attempt a problem with the whole mindset, WHOLE. He might be the CEO, but you might have something to tell about. You might have something to share. So think about what you can do. You might be able to connect him. You might be able to do something for him. So don't just think about what you can extract. That's networking doesn't mean trying to extract everything that you can. It means networking. That's what's called a network, right? It's not one-way flow. It's not a valve. It's network, right? Again, I can go on and on about this, but I know you have many more questions, so I will stop here.
Yeah. So you have 24 hours and I have 24 hours and all of us have 24 hours. Where do you get the time to do it all?
Okay, yeah, this is something which a lot of people ask me, that how am I so many errors that you mentioned, and I always joke that. In fact, I just created that error joke in the beginning of this session. Uh, so so this is the thing. Life is not linear, and life is not just one frame in a movie. And a lot of time multiple movies are going on at the same time, right? You're juggling multiple roles. You could be a student, you could be a brother, you could be a nephew or niece, and so many other things. So at all time, everything that you do needs to be, and I've repeated this so many times, needs to be driven by your passion. So not coming back to your question about time. So there are a few things I do and a few things I don't do. So number one, I delegate. Okay. So I have a helper who can cook food better than I can do, right? And it's nutritious, it's healthy. Uh, so I have delegated that to her. She is the one who is going to help me with that food aspect, which I'm not great at. So I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, or I know what I have time for and what I don't have time for. So because of that, I'm able to free up that time. That's number one. So the point I'm trying to make here is about being able to delegate. Number two, prioritize what is important for you, what is not important for you, what makes you happy, and everything that you do should be actually giving you some sort of happiness. Just don't do it because you are being forced to do it. So for example, I am not the sort of guy who watches movies, and I have nothing against people who watch movies. I'm not the sort of guy who likes to drink and party. I can have a conversation. I go to bars, but I go to bars not for drinking but for having conversations. So and I don't drive. I actually take trains to work, public transport. So because I'm taking public transport, because I don't watch movies, I also don't listen to music, but it's just my personal thing. And I don't do all this not because because I'm trying to force this on me, just because I don't enjoy those things. I watch a lot of documentaries. I watch a lot of YouTube documentaries and other Netflix documentaries and so on and so forth, but I don't watch movies. I also ironically don't read books, but I make up for that by reading Wikipedia. So I've read like, I think 5 to 6% of Wikipedia by now, but I have only read, actually I've confessed this many times, I've only read 3 books in my entire life. So I know so it's part of discrimination, what you want to do and what you don't want to do. That's what I'm calling prioritization as well. So decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And then focus on doing those things that you want to do, right? In a year, I watch 3 movies, and the way I do it, and I only watch Bollywood because I culturally don't relate to Hollywood movies. The way I would do is I will, around December when I'm taking my annual leave, I'll Google for the previous year, the top Bollywood movies for 2019. That's what I will Google this year. I'll look at the plots. I'll pick up the 3 movies that I think make sense to me, and that's what I would watch if they are available on YouTube, by the way. So that's what I do. So that's the second point. So number 1 was delegate, number 2 was prioritize, and number 3 is multitasking, right? That's important. In this day and age, you cannot actually be doing one thing at a time. You have to multitask. You definitely have to multitask, and you can only multitask if you're passionate about multiple things at the same time, right? So one example of multitask I was already giving you, right? When I'm traveling from work, that is the time to and fro. That is the time when I clear majority of my non-work emails. I take 1 hour to travel, 1 hour to go, 1 hour to come back. I'm sitting in a train. Nothing else is distracting me. That's the time when I clear my emails. So I hope that answers.
That does. So we delegate, we prioritize, we multitask, and we work in those white spaces also. What is this one insight, or what are these insights that you would give for women at work or women starting early in their careers? And I'm specifically asking for women because I think you'll have very interesting insights on that line.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I will say I'm not qualified to answer that. Reason why I say that is, like, there is this Black Lives Matters in US, right? And they're talking, and white people are coming and saying that all lives matter. So the thing is that when you are a white guy or when you're a brown guy, you don't know what it means to be a black guy, right? So when you say all life matter, it is not that I'm demeaning that white lives don't matter by saying black lives matter. I'll give you an analogy. It's like organs, right? So if you look at the society as organs, as human body, if one of the organs is injured, if the kidney is injured, or if the head is injured, or if the eye is injured, all the other organs come together to make good that organ, right? Do you agree? I mean, we don't ignore and let it rot and die, right? We all come together. So in America, what has happened is for the longest time, and same in India, by the way, the caste system, for the longest time, there are certain organs of the society which have been injured, which have been battered, and I would put women in that category as well. So they have been battered, they have been neglected for very long. So time has come when the society realizes that, is conscious of that, and tries to make do that that injustice that has been there for centuries. And in that context, people will say that that's not fair, because fairness is no, that's not equitable. That's not equitable, because equity is when everybody has the same opportunity. Why do we have reservations for women? Why do we have affirmative actions for blacks? Why do we have even at IITs, I think you have reservations for people from different categories, right? Disabled, backward caste, and all the other things. Now people will question, why is that so? Because they have been battered. Because that's one organ of the society that has been neglected. So women at work, what I feel is that it's not enough to say that we give equal opportunities. You have to actively go and seek, not only because that's the right thing to do, also because that actually increases the diversity in your work function. It increases the way you attempt a problem. There was this famous study, right, where astronauts were going in space, and initially there were no women. And when they put women in the spaceship, there was more discipline. People were more disciplined. They were, in fact, ironically, they were more keeping better care of their hygiene to begin with. So all those kind of things start matching, right? Imagine if IIT had only males, right? I would think that I've been told that IIT guys only take a shower once a week. I don't know if that is true, but maybe that will go from 1 week to 1 month. I'm being very oblique to your question about women, because I'm not qualified to answer that. But I strongly believe that we as society haven't done enough for women. We need to do more. And if there are young women in the workforce, especially IIT women, there is an article which I can share with this group later on. There has been a tracking done of the top IIT women from 1990s. Where are they now? Majority of them have left the corporate. So we are actually, as it is, IITs don't have that many women. But even if that was 50% on 50%, 50 boys and 50 girls, we are losing so many of these highly talented people, right? So that's already a loss to the society. We are already losing so much of talent. So if you are a woman from IIT, I would strongly encourage that go on and express yourself, participate in workforce, because you have something of value to add. One more point I would like to add, this idea about feminism. So feminism is not about trying to be vocal about, I don't know what the nice way of putting it, but feminism is not trying to be a man, right? So if some women have this wrong idea of coming to a workplace and behaving like a guy and thinking that behaving like a guy is going to get them there. That is not what you need to do. You need to be comfortable in your own shoes. There is a value to being a woman. There is certain aspects that you bring. There is certain. You look at COVID-19. Look at the countries which have been most successful in taming COVID-19. That's Germany or New Zealand, or many other countries that I don't know the names of. Maybe Finland. I think Finland also has a women leader. And look at countries which don't have women leader, which have been more successful, because there is an element of compassion there that comes naturally to women. Women are also better at EQ. They can gauge what is going on in a person's mind much better. Men are not, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if you're a woman at workplace, if you're a woman at IIT, don't try to be, and I know IIT has this derogatory term, right? Non-male, and that's also very, very, very bad thing to say. I mean, you should probably sensitize students at IIT to not to use that term. That's very demeaning, I think. So long answer to your question, oblique answers to your question, but I tried to answer as best as I could.
I think I'll do something with the study that you're talking about, and we'll see what to do about it. The study of tracking IIT women and how they've fallen through the cracks of whatever system that we have right now. The last question, and I think the slide is also adequate for it. Can you explain Ikigai to us? And this will be my last question. We'll open it to the audience after that.
Sure. So Ikigai is something that I talk about a lot. In fact, my book is coming in a few months, which is also about Ikigai. Some of you might have read the book on Ikigai, which is essentially a Japanese concept. Now that book explains the concept, but doesn't give you doesn't tell you how you will actually put that in your life. So that part is missing in that book. So, but before that, let me just explain what Ikigai is. So Ikigai, if you see there are various circles, right? So there are things which you're good at, there are things that you love, there are things that the world needs, and there are things that you can get paid for. So intersection of all these, and I know this is a engineering congregation, so you would understand this, produces different kind of things. For example, if you're doing something that you're good at and something that you love, then that's your passion. If you're doing something that you love and something that the world needs, then that's a mission. And I have a video here in the link, which you can see later because we'll share the slides. So what is Ikigai? So I have made it very simple. What I'm saying is that, and that simple is the sentence which is at the bottom of the slide. Ikigai is finding your passion. First of all, find your passion, what you really want to do. Within that passion, use your skills. You all have some skills. Use your skills to solve for a world problem. And the last phrase is very important, such that you get paid for it. I'll give you an example what that means. Let's say that you're really passionate about singing. Okay, let's say you think about that. You think that. You also think that you have a skill in singing. You think you have a skill in singing. And you also think that you're solving a world problem by singing because the world needs more melodious songs or more melodious music. But when you open your mouth, you put you put the person next to you to sleep. Let's say if Ayush is singing and if Bharat is listening, Bharat is just going to plug his ears with earplugs. Then do you think Bharat is going to pay Ayush for his singing? Is he going to get paid for it? So that's the thought I want to leave you with. If you think that there is something that you're passionate about, if you think that you have a skill in something, it could be painting, dancing, whatever, engineering even, whatever, and you think that using your skills you can solve for a world's problem, always bear in mind that if this is something that can pay you, because if it cannot pay you, then it's not your Ikigai. Then you cannot carry this as a profession, right? You cannot do this to sustain yourself. Sooner or later you will run out. So that I think was Lipsa's final question. Now we will open to the floor. Who is moderating it now? If nobody's moderating, I'll self-moderate myself. Who has the first question for me from the audience?
We have a question from Chirag already. Chirag, do you want to ask it? Or should I just read it for you?
So I'll read the question. I've
Cool.
managed to open the chat. Hi Rahul, I personally take interest in various fields and read on it. Therefore, I get confused with path to follow for my career. How am I supposed to find what is the best for me? Okay, great question. Number one, you are very fortunate that you are confused because you have to be confused. At your age, you need to be confused. Anybody who says he's dead sure of what they want to do is either arrogant or lying or both. So you have to be confused. I have actually a workshop I do in which you can figure out what you really want to do, and that is the what, the how, and the why. It's a 30-minute exercise that I normally do when I'm doing this as a workshop. What I will do, Lipsa, I will share that, and along with that, I will share a video of doing that in an IIM, which will probably answer Chirag's question, because this is something where I have to go through him personally. I need to, you probably could give this exercise to your batch as well, not your batch, to this congregation, I mean. So there is a process of finding, and I cannot do justice to telling that process in 30 seconds, a 30-minute process. So I'll just share it with you.
Rahul, I think another thing we would do is we'll circle back and see if there's a scope for a larger workshop also, because I think there'll be interest from people who even have a hands-on piece. So we will connect back with you on that.
Yeah, so right now we are doing so let me explain. Right now we are doing the theoretical aspect. It's more like science. The engineering aspect we'll do later. So let's first study the theory, which you're doing now. We'll do the engineering aspect as well.
Sure. Thank you, Rahul. Any other questions, guys?
So somebody says, Harjeet,
I want to ask one question. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
audible.
hi Rahul. My name is Deepak. Uh, I want to ask you one question. Like from my childhood, or I can say from my after my 10th, I'm going with the flow. My parents told me to do JEE. I did it. Then they asked for a job. Okay, I got it. I don't know if I want to do job or not, but I still have to go and join it. And I'm just going with the flow. I don't know by what till how much time I want to do the job, or what will I do in future. I really don't know. So just want to ask you: have you ever faced in your life where you don't know what is doing next, and is it like how to get out of it? Like I want to get out of it, and I want to do something which is my passion, but I feel that this is not the right time because of certain reasons. So have you ever felt such situation in your life, and if so, then how you cope? And if you didn't, then what might be a possible scenario in future if you see?
Sure. So you were cracking. So whatever I got of a question, I'll try to answer that. But before that, Harjeet Kaur has written in the chat, Rahul, excellent. I can see a man very well versed with Gita. Excellent. So actually, you are right. I actually teach a course on Gita, which is Prelude to Gita in 10 sessions. And this is something which I do from an engineer's or a scientist's perspective. So if I had to rename that course, I would actually call it Bhagavad Gita for engineers and scientists. So I take a lot of examples in physics. So early on in my life, I haven't touched that aspect, but I actually wanted to be a theoretical physicist. For some reason, I became a banker. That's my profession right now. So that also links me to the question that the gentleman was asking. I didn't catch his name, but because the voice was cracking. So he says, I've always been going with the flow. And my parents told me to go do JE. I did that. My parents told me to get a job. I'm doing it. Something of that nature. He was saying, if I heard it correctly. Now, this is the problem. Whose flow? Is it your flow or somebody else's flow? Is it your flow or somebody is pushing you into that flow? Is it your wave that you're riding, or is that wave is somebody who's blowing the wind from behind, and that wave is coming? Right? Is it intrinsic or is it extrinsic? So that's something you need to figure out. Yes, I have been in your situation. I've been in a situation where I didn't know what I wanted to do. In fact, I used to be the butt of jokes in my undergrad. So even at IIM, I used to be joke. They used to call me, what is that guy, Ranchhod Das, right? Who goes in all kind of classes. So I did not know what I used to go in all classes, whether I am registered for it or not. So when I was studying electrical engineering or photonics, and I used to sit in mechanical engineering classes where they used to talk about uh, they used to talk about Navier-Stokes, and they used to talk about thermodynamics, and they used to talk about fluid mechanics. I remember that was the toughest thing. And there used to be people who used to come and ask me about fluid mechanics. And for the longest time, they thought I was a mechanical engineering student. And they were asking me, so have you prepared for the exam? I said, but I'm not taking the exam. I'm an electrical engineering student. So they didn't know that. So, and not just that, I have also sat in law classes, in economics classes. My undergrad is in photonics, but I have minors in physics and in economics. So I was and am the most confused person you will ever meet, in the traditional sense of confused. But I would also say that I find that confusion very liberating. I don't find it captivating, because that I don't see these knowledge as boundaries. I don't see life as clear-cut boundaries. And in India, I think you'd like to call it verticals, right? Which vertical are you getting into? In IIM, we used to use this language. Are you going to marketing vertical or operation vertical? Life is not vertical. There is no vertical silos. So yes, being confused is good. Being not sure of where you are trying to go is also good. And there was another thing you was mentioning, so that I think right now is not the right time. So before you try to help others, or before you try to figure out what you want to do, I'll give you that oxygen mask analogy that happens in aeroplane. So when you're going in an aeroplane, they say that before helping others, put your own mask first. Because unless you yourself are secure, unless you yourself are breathing properly, how will you help others? So if at this point in time you feel that you're financially not secure, or if you feel that there is some aspect of life that you've not touched upon, and that is something you need to pick up, if there is a skill that you think you need to pick up, please do that. Don't try to start helping, or don't try to start helping others is one thing, also helping yourself. Don't try to start helping yourself before you have fully figured out what you want to do. So you are doing the right thing. It's good to be confused. It's good to figure out what you want to do. There are tools that can help you figure out. And that's why I talk about that exercise that I do. So once I do that exercise, you'll probably have slightly more clarity of where you want to be. But bear in mind, all these things are fluid. They're not static. So whatever you answer today may be very different from what you answer 10 years later, maybe very different from what you would or you might have answered 10 years back. So all these are different things. But having said that, your journey starts today. So we'll help you. We'll probably do a follow-up workshop if that is something that happens, that is something that's feasible. We will figure out for each of you. We'll do the same exercise for each of you, and each of you will come with different answers because, again, this is your journey. I will not know what you want to do. Does that answer you?
Yes, Rahul. Thank you so much.
Rahul, you have another question. If someone
Okay, yeah.
doesn't have good skills in the field that they like, but has good skills in the field that they don't like much, which one
Yeah.
should they choose?
Skill in the field which they like. And what is the question?
If I have skills in the field that I don't like, but I don't have skills in the field that I like, then how do you choose or how do you bridge?
Sorry, I'm going to ask that to repeat again. I'm so sorry. If you have this, the voice is cracking a little bit here. Can you repeat
Sorry.
again?
If someone has good skills in the field that they like, that they do not like, but I have skills in the field that I don't like, then how should I choose? Basically, I like something, I like
Versus,
something and don't have skills in it.
skills versus like, right? That's the question.
Yeah, skills versus
Okay.
like.
Skills versus like, always choose like. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you had to ever choose, this is a boyfriend-girlfriend example, right? So if you had to ever choose somebody that is beautiful versus somebody that you love, always choose somebody that you love and not somebody who is beautiful. So skill is like that beautiful lady, something that you think I think I made my point clear, right? So because you see, if you love somebody, you will always figure out beauty in that, right? But if somebody is just beautiful, doesn't mean that you will love them. It might be infatuation. So skill is like that. Just because you're skilled in something, that doesn't mean that you will like it. But if you like something, skill is never a limitation. You can always learn things. The only limitation is knowing what you like. Does that help, Lipsa?
Yeah, I think that answers the question for now. Jivesh has a question. You seem well versed with so many different disciplines. Can you recommend books to read?
Yeah, I told you, right? I've only read 3 books in my life, so I have no books to recommend. But I'll tell you, and I'm not joking when I say I've read only 3 books, and I'm not trying to be boastful about it, or I'm not trying to brag about it, or I'm not even. I know it's a limitation, but again, life is a constrained optimization, right? So as Dipsa was saying, I have 24 hours, so has everybody else. So within those 24 hours, I'm trying to maximize what I can do. Now I'll tell you why I don't read books. I don't read books because I think that books are inherently biased. Because it's written by 1 or at max 2 or 3 people. So they bring in their own bias. That's number 1 reason why I don't read books. Number 2 reason why I don't read books is because I find that the per inch knowledge that is there on the book is very little. It's in 2 pages you find 2 sentences worth of knowledge. So per inch, Wikipedia has much more knowledge. Okay, and I will distinguish knowledge from wisdom. Now, I may get all the knowledge that is out there just by reading Wikipedia, right? But what books are good at? Books are good at giving you perspective. So how do I get perspective? How do I gain that wisdom? So I do something else for that, because I do not have the luxury of reading books. I just can't get myself to read books. That's just not my thing. But I'm not discouraging you from reading books. Okay, read books if you like. But I'm not the right person to tell you which books to read. Now, how do I get perspective? For perspective, I like to meet people. That is something I love. Okay, so most of us in our jobs get at least 30 minutes, 40 minutes for lunch, right? Every lunch, out of 5 days in a week, at least 4 days, I would meet somebody. And while I'm meeting them, they will tell me things. They will tell me about various things. They'll tell me about their life. They'll tell me about the industry they work in. And that is where I get perspective. If I were to meet somebody, and if I were to tell me your story in 30 minutes, those 30 minutes will tell me more than any book can ever teach me. that is what I firmly believe in, and that is what has been working for me. So I have not read many books, but nobody has ever called me ill-read or illiterate. So I am doing fine. So I don't have many books to talk about. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that question.
We have a question from Snigdha. It's been a year since she started working. She's able to do her work well, but she's wondering if there are other roles that will suit her better. So when is the right time to do a career switch or say go for higher studies? How do you decide it? How do you decide the switch and switchovers and changes in the next step?
Okay, I have a statement to make here. It's a controversial statement. Master's degree, especially an MBA, is a degree for losers. Okay, and this is a controversial statement I make, and I actually doesn't sit very well with a lot of my batchmates from IIM. Why I call MBA especially a degree for losers, because you see, your undergrad degree is enough to get you where you want to. Your analytical skills, your cognitive abilities, nothing changes, right? Now, unless you want to do a PhD, then maybe you need a master's and need to go deeper in a subject because you are probably exploring something. But in particular, masters doesn't really add much to what you already know. You can already get all those skills that you know, especially in this day and age when everything is available online, when a lot of knowledge is. So you see, knowledge is free these days. Degree is expensive. That's the other thing, right? You any topic you want, whether it's AI, ML, which I don't know much about, but I want to, I could learn it. I could do Coursera or whatever. So to decide whether you want to do MS or MBA, that's totally your call. What do you want to do it for? Maybe you want to do it because it has a signaling effect. What is signaling? Signaling means it tells somebody else that that you are educated or that you know your stuff, right? So let's say I have undergrad degree in photonics, right? But if I wanted to signal somebody that I'm even more well versed in this, I might do a master's or I might do a PhD in it, so that somebody else feels that I'm more knowledgeable in that. That's their perception. I may still come out as dumb as I was. I may still not know how to solve Maxwell's equations, right? I may still not know how to solve Schrodinger's equation. I may still not know a lot of other things, right? But then virtue of the fact that I did a PhD in whatever, people would assume that I know. So to your question, I'm having thoughts about doing MS or MBA, but I'm not sure which one is the right thing. MBA and MS is very different. MS is more specialized. You are specializing in a certain thing. MBA is a very generalist degree. So MBA tells you how to, one good thing that MBA teaches you, by the way, is it makes you a jack of all trades. So it may not help you directly in your life, in your career, but it tells you a lot of things that you can probably, first of all, it forces you to speak your mind, because there is a large part of, and that's a drawback of an education system where you do not express yourself as much, especially engineers. You formula rat liya, exam mein likh diya, and that's it. So MBA forces you to talk and express yourself. That's one thing it does. Also, I would say that whether whatever degrees you do, whether you do engineering or you do masters, these all train you to be CEOs. They teach you enough to be a CEO of a company. But unfortunately, when you start in life, you start as janitor, right at the bottom, right? That's where you start. So whether you should do an MS or an MBA depends on what is your end goal. Do you see yourself as there are two kind of people in life. There are two ways to be successful. One way is by realizing I don't know everything, but I am good at putting people together and putting up a team, right? If that is how you want to be successful, then do an MBA. MBA will teach you how you can leverage on others. I'm not very good at a lot of things, but I'm probably good at connecting people. I know who is the best person to do this thing. Probably if I know that Lipsa is the best person when it comes to social causes, right? So I'll reach out to her because I'm not the best qualified. The other way of being successful is by looking at yourself as an institution in yourself. You are so specialized, you are such a master of skill that you don't need an introduction. So if you want to be an expert in something, then probably the way to go is MS and PhD, because then you become an authority in something. So whether you are an individualistic or a collective person, that probably determines whether you should do MS or you should do MBA. And I think that is the only thing that determines it. Is not about knowledge, or it's not about careers. I think that is how I would look at least. Maybe there are other ways of looking at it.
Thank you, Rahul. I think that was a very, my biggest takeaway is is how your mindset determines what you want to pursue, individualistic versus collective skill. We have a question from Aditya. After listening to you, I have a motivation to change my life, but I'm also worried that tomorrow I may lose my motivation. How do I keep motivating myself?
Yes, that's a very good question. So you know what happens is that people go to these motivational speakers, or they go to the spiritual guru, and they, especially motivational speaker, right, they make you stop, jump, do this, and you come off all powered up, and then next that motivation lasts how many days? 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, and gone. Okay, why? Because again, the same thing: intrinsic versus extrinsic. Is it that you are motivated from within, or is it that you're motivated from outside? So when you go to these when you are motivated, when you say I'm motivated to change my life, are you motivated because I'm telling you, or are you motivated because you have figured out yourself? So the idea is to figure out yourself. Like, you know, this Michelangelo, what he talks about, that somebody asked him, you made a beautiful sculpture from a stone. So he says, no, I just removed the bits which were not important from the stone. Do you get it? So what he's saying is that the sculpture or the murti was already inside the stone. I just helped to remove the parts which were not needed. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. Whether you are trying to, that murti, that thing that you want to be, that motivation that you're looking for, it has to be coming from you, because only you have to fuel this. Yes, you can go to people for mentorship, you can go to people for charging up that to get direction, but large part of that has to come from you. Okay.
I think that was our last question. Do we have more questions? Rahul, is it okay if people can reach out to you over email, ask their questions? Are you comfortable with that?
I'm very comfortable with that. I love
Can you
doing
please
that.
drop your email on the chat so we will know where to reach you?
Yeah, sure. And I'll also send you my slides, and I'll give you more details in that.
And we will come back to you as to how can we figure out a workshop, a larger workshop where there's more hands-on activity as well for our cohort.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Rahul, for being with us today, for creating the space for us, and for all the participants who asked all these questions. And I hope this is the first time I think we are having a session like this for our outgoing batch, right? But my vision is to have it for all 300 people who are outgoing, and not just 30 of these who are self-selected here. Because it's like, it's a lot of like, I don't know what I need, but maybe this is a session that I need. And that's what I want to establish with each year of graduating batches that we have. We'll also get back to you figuring out if we can do this for earlier, for students who are early in their engineering as well. Would it be meaningful for them to think on these lines by second year, by third year, so that by the time they are graduating, they have so much more clarity before stepping out into the world. So that's something I hope you'll be open to working with us in figuring out a setup for that, for IIT Bhubaneswar at least.
No, that will be my pleasure, and I'll just take something you said about you want to do this for larger people rather than people who have self-selected themselves. I like to call this the guitar analogy. So you might be the best guitar player in the world, but how would you know if nobody ever gave you the guitar?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're born in Africa and nobody gave you the guitar, then how would you ever become Freddie Mercury? I think was a guitar player, right? So how would we ever become Freddie Mercury, right? So oftentimes we don't know what we want. In fact, Steve Jobs says that people don't know what design they want. People don't know what phone they want. So it's very important that people are exposed to these things. So it's great that you're thinking on those lines. And again, I'm a great fan of not forcing things. But again, opportunity should be available. At least the guitar should be shown. The guitar should be given. Whether the person wants to play it, whether the person wants to touch it, that's totally up to them.
Right. So we work on giving our students and our alums a lot more choices and tool sets to realize that they have choices.
Yeah,
that is what I think.
Give them guitar, give them drum, give them violin, give them saxophone, give them everything to play with, and let them figure out whether they want to be a drummer or they want to be a musician or they want to be a vocal person or whatever, right? I mean, just show them what is out there, and that's one thing engineering does, right? And again, going to the same thing. just because you did electrical engineering, do not limit yourself to electrical engineering. Always try to see what is going on the fringes, what is going on in the other fields. Because if you see the Nobel Prizes in the last 20 years, they're not in pure physics, they're not in pure biology, they're not in pure mathematics, doesn't have it. They're not in pure economics, they're always on the fringes. They're in biochemistry, right? They are in economics, which tends to be on the verges of mathematics, right? So the world of being a specialist in a field is over. Now you need to look at those fringes. It's because all that there was in that specialist field already probably has been harnessed. If you really want to grow, if you really want to do something different, then look at the fringes where one field marries the other field. That's probably where you have a unique skill to that you can use. That's where you have a unique knowledge that can probably bring out insights that the world doesn't know yet. So think of your engineering degree and think of where you can apply where it has not been applied yet. In social fields, in I don't know how many other fields I can't think of, but just think outside the box. That's what I'm trying to think. Think of the fringes where you could apply your education. Okay.
Thank you, Rahul. And that was my last question, actually, and last comment also. And we hope to keep working with you. And thank you everyone who has participated.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure, and I had a lovely audience. And thank you so much for this honor. I'm really excited. I'm really hoping that some of you, at least some of you, have a shift in perspective after this talk. If any of you need more tools or more clarification on anything I said, I'm more than happy to help. I'm always there for you, and thank you so much, Lipsa.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lipsa. Thank you, Rahul, for making this happen.